Aliens killed this human's dog, not knowing he was a super soldier. Jack Harper had spent years living among humans, blending in so well that no one suspected he was once one of Earth's most elite soldiers. On the quiet colony of Eden 5, at the edge of the Andromeda sector, Jack had traded combat missions and interstellar wars for mornings filled with the smell of soil and the warmth of the sun. The colony's residents were friendly, always busy with their small farms, hovercraft repairs, and local schools. Jack loved it here, not because it was safe, but because it felt like he belonged. The soft hum of the colony's energy grids filled the air as Jack walked through the small garden behind his modest home. Rows of bright green vegetables grew neatly beside clusters of alien-adapted flowers, their petals glowing faintly under Eden 5's twin suns. Jack knelt beside a row of krill herbs, brushing the soft leaves with a careful hand. The herbs had a sweet aroma that reminded him of home, of a time when life was simpler and quieter. Rex, his golden-coated dog, bounded through the garden with a playful bark. The dog was more than a pet. He was a constant companion, a source of comfort, and a reminder of Jack's humanity. Even on days when Jack felt the weight of his past pressing on him, Rex's excitement was infectious. He chased small holographic balls Jack had projected, leaping high into the air with a grace that was almost human-like in its joy. Jack smiled, watching Rex tumble and roll in the grass. "You're lucky, Rex," he said softly. "I don't think many humans would put up with my weird schedules." Rex responded with a happy bark, running toward Jack and nudging his hand with a wet nose. It was during one of these peaceful evenings that the first disturbance occurred. Jack was gazing at the stars, Rex lying quietly beside him, when a faint shimmer in the sky caught his attention. It was subtle, barely noticeable, but to someone with Jack's training, it was impossible to ignore. A small vessel, alien in design, was gliding through Eden 5's atmosphere, its hull reflecting the sun's light in a way that made it almost invisible from a distance. Jack's instincts immediately kicked in. He crouched low, observing, analyzing. His eyes narrowed. The vessel seemed confused, its movements jerky and uncoordinated, like a creature unfamiliar with its surroundings. Jack realized quickly that this was not a deliberate attack. It was a scouting mission gone awry. Rex, sensing Jack's tension, stood up and growled softly. Jack placed a hand on the dog's head. "Easy, boy. It's not here for us yet." He watched the vessel hover closer to the colony, noticing its sensors scanning the ground. Jack's mind raced. Humans and aliens had coexisted in nearby sectors, but misunderstandings were common. Many alien species lacked the subtleties of human behavior, interpreting simple actions as threats. Jack's fears were confirmed in an instant that no one could have anticipated. The vessel emitted a series of high-frequency pulses, a signal he recognized from his military training as a neutralization protocol. He lunged forward, trying to create distance between Rex and the approaching threat, but the dog, ever curious, dashed toward the shimmer in the sky, barking at the strange lights. The pulse struck unexpectedly, knocking Rex off his paws. Jack screamed, but it was too late. Rex lay still, the light around him fading. Jack's heart clenched in a way it hadn't in years. The dog, his constant companion, his friend, was gone. For a moment, Jack froze. His mind struggled to process the scene before him. Normally, in his line of work, loss was part of the mission. He had seen comrades fall, planets destroyed, and battles lost. But this was different. This loss was personal. It was home. It was life in its simplest, purest form, extinguished by a misunderstanding. He knelt beside Rex, gently brushing the fur away from his face. The dog's eyes were closed, but to Jack, they still shone with the life and loyalty that had defined their years together. He could feel the grief settling into his chest like a stone, heavy and unyielding. Jack rose slowly, his mind shifting from grief to focus. He could not allow himself to falter. Not yet. The aliens had no idea what they had done. They had no clue about the strength and ingenuity of the species they had underestimated. Jack's training resurfaced, not as a tool of war, but as a shield for what remained of his world. He surveyed the sky, noticing that the alien vessel had paused, hovering near the colony's edge. They were curious, unaware of the true capabilities of the humans standing below. Jack's jaw tightened. He would not rush in blindly. Instead, he would plan, observe, and act with precision. The same skills that had made him a super soldier would now be used not for conquest, but for understanding and protection. For the next few days, Jack moved quietly through the colony, mourning Rex but also gathering information. He checked the perimeter sensors, adjusted the energy fields, and observed the alien vessel from a distance. He noticed patterns in its movements, small behaviors that revealed its unfamiliarity with human environments. Each observation built a clearer picture in Jack's mind, a puzzle that he was determined to solve. During this time, he also connected with the colony's children. They were fascinated by Jack's calm presence and his ability to explain complex ideas in simple ways. He taught them how to build small drones, how to read star maps, and how to cultivate the hybrid crops that made Eden 5 so unique. Even in grief, Jack found comfort in passing knowledge to the next generation, ensuring that humanity's creativity and resilience would continue to thrive. Late one night, Jack returned to the site where Rex had been struck. He set up a small memorial, placing Rex's favorite toys and a holographic projection of the dog's image among the flowers. As the twin suns set, the hologram glowed softly, and for a moment, it was as if Rex was there again, bounding through the garden with his infectious energy. Jack whispered to the projection, "I'll make them understand, Rex. They won't forget you. They won't forget us." His plan began to take shape. He would not confront the aliens with weapons. That was not his way, and it was not necessary. Instead, he would use strategy, intelligence, and creativity, the very traits that had allowed humanity to thrive in countless challenges across the stars. He would teach the aliens a lesson in understanding, in empathy, and in respect for life. Jack's training had taught him patience. He knew that every move had to be calculated, every action purposeful. The humans around him were unaware of the storm gathering just beyond the horizon, but Jack was ready. Not as a soldier seeking revenge, but as a protector, as a human determined to ensure that life, love, and loyalty were never dismissed or destroyed. As the nights passed, Jack's resolve grew. He studied alien technology from a distance, noting the shapes, the energy signatures, and the movement patterns. He observed their communication, listening for any clues to their intentions. And all the while, he imagined Rex by his side, guiding him, reminding him that this mission was not about war. It was about honor, memory, and the resilience that made humans extraordinary. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Jack finally made a decision. He would track the alien vessel to its source, learning everything about the species that had caused him such pain. But he would do it in a way that reflected the best of humanity, not with aggression, but with ingenuity, courage, and an unbreakable sense of morality. Jack knew the journey ahead would be difficult. He would face challenges that tested his patience, his intellect, and his emotional strength. But he also knew that humanity had always faced the impossible and emerged stronger. And now, armed with the memory of Rex and the skills that made him a super soldier, Jack was ready to show the universe that humans were never to be underestimated. As he looked up at the stars, Jack felt a spark of determination light within him. The galaxy was vast, and there were dangers yet unseen, but there was also opportunity. Opportunity to teach, to protect, and to remind all species that life, loyalty, and intelligence were treasures worth respecting. And somewhere beyond the shimmer of alien technology, he knew Rex would be watching, proud of the human who refused to bow, even in sorrow. The first part of Jack's journey had begun, and though it started with loss, it would not end in despair. For humanity, when underestimated, always had a way of turning even tragedy into triumph. Jack Harper spent the first few days after Rex's death observing the alien vessel from the edges of the colony. He moved quietly, blending into the shadows of Eden Five's rolling hills, using every skill from his super soldier training to remain unseen. The aliens were cautious, yet unfamiliar with human behavior. Each movement they made revealed small details: how they scanned the ground, how they communicated through flashes of light and soft hums, and how they seemed confused when their sensors registered nothing but natural wildlife. Jack knew that understanding these patterns was the key. Humans had survived countless challenges not because of superior firepower, but because of their ability to think creatively, to adapt, and to anticipate. Every creature had rules, every species had habits. Once he knew the aliens' habits, he could move with precision, without needing to rely on brute force. He set up small sensors around the area where the alien vessel hovered. They were simple devices, based on old Earth designs but adapted for Eden Five's technology. They would record energy emissions, movement patterns, and communication pulses. Jack watched the data carefully, learning quickly that the aliens moved in small groups, relying on coordinated signals but lacking imagination when faced with unexpected circumstances. Late one evening, as Eden Five's twin moons rose in the sky, a small alien scout approached the colony's outskirts. Jack was waiting. Instead of confronting it, he used a clever tactic. He projected a holographic image of a larger predator, a creature native to the planet that the aliens had no experience with. The hologram moved realistically, rustling leaves and creating shadows across the ground. The scout paused, its sensors flickering in confusion. It retreated, unsure of what it had encountered. Jack smiled softly. This was not about hurting anyone. It was about teaching respect and caution. The aliens were intelligent, yes, but they lacked the subtle understanding that humans had developed over millennia. And that understanding, Jack knew, was humanity's greatest strength. During the following week, Jack learned more about the aliens. They communicated in patterns that resembled music, a combination of hums, pulses, and color flashes. By carefully analyzing these patterns, Jack began to understand their intentions. Some were curious, some cautious, but none were inherently hostile, at least not in the way humans defined hostility. Their neutralization protocol had been a misunderstanding, a response to unfamiliar behavior rather than a deliberate act of aggression. Jack also discovered that the aliens traveled in small pods, each carrying supplies and tools for mapping and studying new worlds. Their main vessel hovered above, observing, but they were vulnerable to miscalculations. Jack's mind worked quickly, devising ways to use that to his advantage, not to harm but to protect and teach. One morning, while reviewing the sensor data, Jack noticed something unusual. A young alien, smaller and less cautious than the others, was observing him from a distance. It seemed curious, tilting its head and blinking in patterns that Jack recognized as basic communication attempts. He crouched low and extended his hand, not threatening, just open. The alien hesitated, then slowly approached, touching his fingers with one delicate limb. Jack realized that this small creature could be a bridge between the species. If he could communicate with it, perhaps he could prevent further misunderstandings and avoid unnecessary conflict. He began to leave small, non-threatening messages in patterns the alien could recognize. Sometimes he would leave glowing shapes on the ground. Other times he arranged rocks into symbols. The alien child learned quickly, mimicking the shapes and eventually responding with its own symbols. Through this quiet interaction, Jack began to see the aliens differently. They were not enemies. They were explorers, curious about the galaxy, and like humans, sometimes clumsy when encountering the unknown. Jack's anger over Rex's death remained, but it became mixed with a sense of responsibility. He had the ability to teach these beings respect, and he would use it wisely. While observing the alien vessel, Jack discovered its primary weakness. It relied heavily on direct observation and repeated patterns. Any disruption in their routine caused confusion, and confusion led to caution. He set up harmless traps to test their responses, moving energy fields that mimicked natural phenomena, reflecting lights that changed the aliens' perception of the environment, and small drones that could mimic local wildlife. The aliens reacted with hesitation and curiosity, stepping carefully and learning to avoid areas that Jack had subtly influenced. The colony's children became curious about Jack's activities. They often followed him quietly, asking questions about the strange lights and patterns he created. Jack explained in simple terms, teaching them about observation, strategy, and empathy. Sometimes, he told them, the best way to protect yourself is to understand the world around you. Bravery isn't only about fighting, it's about knowing and thinking. Jack also made sure the children understood the story of Rex. He shared how the dog had been loyal, brave, and loving. "Rex taught me something important," he said one evening as they sat in the garden. "He showed me that life is precious, and that protecting it isn't always about strength. It's about heart, intelligence, and care." The children listened, wide-eyed, learning that heroism could take many forms. As the days passed, Jack continued to track the alien vessel. He noticed a pattern. Every few days, the aliens would attempt to scan deeper into the colony, and each time they became more cautious, more hesitant. Jack realized that his indirect methods, observation, teaching, and subtle deterrence, were working. The aliens were learning to respect the human space without any conflict occurring. One afternoon, the small alien child approached Jack again. This time, it brought a small, glowing object. It seemed to be an offering, a gesture of friendship. Jack took it gently, studying its patterns. The object pulsed softly, mimicking the rhythm of life on Eden 5. Jack smiled, understanding that this was more than curiosity, it was trust. The alien child had learned that Jack meant no harm, and that humans could be clever, kind, and protective in ways the aliens had not imagined. Jack decided to name the alien child Luma, after the soft light that seemed to surround it. Luma became his secret informant, helping him understand the other aliens, movements, and intentions. Through her, Jack learned that their species valued logic, observation, and learning above all else. They did not seek to harm, but they also did not fully understand emotions, loyalty, or personal bonds. Jack realized that teaching them about these human qualities could prevent future tragedies. With Luma's help, Jack began creating simulations to demonstrate human problem-solving. He set up small challenges, like moving objects in patterns, creating energy sequences, and navigating mazes. The aliens observed, mimicking actions but often failing to understand the subtle reasoning behind them. Jack smiled. "Humans have this edge," he said quietly to himself. "It's called creativity, empathy, and imagination." The aliens' main vessel continued its surveys, unaware that one human was quietly influencing their understanding. Jack realized that he could use this opportunity not only to honor Rex's memory, but to show the universe why humans should never be underestimated. He began planning the next stage of his mission, a careful demonstration of human ingenuity, one that would make the aliens rethink their assumptions and appreciate the complexity of life beyond simple calculations. Jack also made sure to protect the colony. He adjusted energy shields, created subtle warning systems, and ensured that no alien actions could inadvertently harm the residents. The colony remained unaware of the invisible chess game unfolding above them. They continued their daily routines, believing the nights were quiet and peaceful, while Jack worked tirelessly, observing, teaching, and preparing. Through it all, Jack never forgot Rex. Every step he took, every pattern he created, every strategy he employed was inspired by the loyalty and love of his dog. Rex had shown him what it meant to care, to protect, and to remain steadfast even in the face of confusion or danger. Jack vowed that this mission, unlike others in his past, would not end in unnecessary loss. It would end with understanding, respect, and the quiet triumph of human ingenuity. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Jack and Luma watched the colony from a distance. The small alien child tilted its head, curious about Jack's expressions. He pointed to the holographic projection of Rex in the garden, glowing softly among the flowers. Luma's eyes widened, and she mimicked the shape with her glowing limb. Jack chuckled softly. See, even across the stars, life matters. Even the smallest acts can teach great lessons. Jack knew that the journey ahead would not be simple. The alien vessel would continue its surveys, their leaders would notice discrepancies, and eventually the species might attempt direct contact. But he was ready. Patience, observation, and cleverness were his tools now, not weapons. Humans had survived countless challenges precisely because they could think, adapt, and act with empathy. Jack's mission was a testament to that truth. By the end of the week, Jack had mapped the aliens' routines, understood their priorities, and established a subtle communication line through Luma. He could predict their movements, influence their decisions, and teach them about human values without a single act of aggression. As he returned to the colony each night, Jack felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. He was honoring Rex, protecting his neighbors, and proving something greater. Humans, when underestimated, had the ability to change perspectives, resolve conflicts, and inspire understanding. Jack looked up at the stars and whispered, "Rex, I'll make them see. I'll make them understand. And we'll do it together." The holographic image of his loyal dog flickered softly beside him, a reminder that even in loss, courage and intelligence could light the way forward. And so Jack's journey continued, not as a soldier seeking revenge, but as a human demonstrating the extraordinary power of empathy, creativity, and perseverance. The alien species would soon learn that humans were not to be underestimated, not through weapons, but through the quiet strength of their minds and hearts. Jack Harper had spent weeks quietly observing the alien vessel and learning its patterns. With Luma's help, he now had a clear understanding of the alien species, routines, their curiosity, and their limitations. The small child had become more than a companion. Luma was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of trust that humans could earn even in the most unfamiliar situations. Jack stood on a hill overlooking the colony, Rex's holographic image flickering beside him. He took a deep breath and allowed himself a moment to remember the dog's loyalty and energy. Every decision he made was influenced by the memory of his companion, whose life had been taken through a misunderstanding. But Jack understood that anger would accomplish nothing. What mattered was teaching respect and understanding. That was the true strength of humans. He began to plan the next phase carefully. The aliens had learned to avoid the traps Jack had set, moving cautiously through areas he had influenced. Now he wanted to test their adaptability, to see if they could recognize intelligence when it was presented in a creative, non-threatening way. He started by creating a series of environmental puzzles using Eden's natural features. Rocks were stacked in patterns that formed paths over small ravines. Plants were arranged to produce signals when stepped on, creating light sequences that told a story. Streams were redirected to form shapes only visible from above. Every detail was designed to encourage observation, critical thinking, and problem-solving. The first alien scout approached one of these sequences hesitantly. It paused, examining the lights and sounds, then attempted to replicate the pattern. At first it failed, misinterpreting the sequence. Jack watched closely, noting every movement and response. Then, with small adjustments, the alien began to understand, moving more confidently through the puzzle. Jack smiled. This was not about dominance, it was about teaching. Humans had always solved problems by thinking creatively, by observing carefully and adapting. Here, he was showing the aliens a glimpse of that unique human quality. Luma watched eagerly, her small form glowing softly as she followed the scout, pointing out details Jack had missed. As the days passed, Jack expanded the puzzles, creating more complex sequences that required reasoning, patience, and pattern recognition. The aliens learned slowly, struggling with the nuances of human logic, yet improving with each attempt. Jack realized that this was more effective than any confrontation. By challenging them intellectually, he could demonstrate humans' extraordinary adaptability and ingenuity. At the same time, Jack worked to strengthen the colony's safety. He designed subtle monitoring systems that would alert him to any unexpected movements without alarming the residents. Energy shields were adjusted to channel environmental phenomena harmlessly, ensuring that no alien curiosity could accidentally damage property or put lives at risk. The colony remained unaware of the quiet, invisible lessons being taught just beyond their homes. Children played in the streets, families tended to gardens, and life went on peacefully. Jack preferred it this way. The aliens' understanding could grow without fear, and the humans could continue their lives safely. Jack also began communicating more directly with Luma. He taught her about human emotions, grief, joy, loyalty, and love. The small alien seemed fascinated, tilting her head in ways that showed curiosity and reflection. Jack explained how these feelings guided human decisions, influenced actions, and shaped relationships. Understanding feelings helps us predict behavior, he told her. It's not weakness, it's a strength. Through these lessons, Jack noticed subtle changes in the alien vessel's behavior. The adults were observing more carefully, moving with increased caution, and sometimes mimicking the sequences the scouts had learned. The aliens were beginning to grasp that humans were not simple creatures, that they had creativity, problem-solving skills, and a moral compass that demanded respect. Jack knew he needed to escalate the lessons further. His next plan involved a coordinated display of human ingenuity, using the entire colony as a stage. He set up energy patterns across the fields, synchronized with sound sequences from hidden speakers, creating a symphony of lights and tones that formed a clear, intelligent message. The message conveyed logic, creativity, and nonviolent problem-solving, a demonstration of human potential without aggression. When the alien vessel approached again, the scouts immediately detected the patterns. At first, they paused, confused by the complexity. Then, one by one, they began to analyze, experiment, and adapt. Their movements became more deliberate, more thoughtful, and eventually coordinated. Jack observed from a safe distance, satisfied. The aliens were beginning to understand that humans were not to be underestimated, not through strength, but through intelligence. Jack also continued his personal memorial to Rex. Each display, each puzzle, incorporated subtle elements that honored his dog's memory. The golden light from the hologram shone through the sequences, reminding Jack of loyalty, joy, and courage. The children of the colony occasionally discovered these symbols, and Jack explained them gently, teaching them that heroism could be quiet, intelligent, and compassionate. During one observation session, Jack realized that the alien vessel was preparing for a closer survey of the colony. Their curiosity had grown, and they seemed eager to understand more about the humans' intelligence and behavior. Jack knew this would be the critical moment to demonstrate humans' unique capabilities fully, but he also understood the need for patience. Rushing could provoke confusion or fear. He spent the following nights refining his strategy. He created sequences that required collaboration, both among the aliens and with the environment, showing that intelligence alone was not enough. Observation, empathy, and patience were equally important. Jack smiled at the thought. Humans had always excelled because they combined creativity with emotion and morality. One morning, while reviewing sensor data, Jack noticed an unusual communication pattern from the alien vessel. They were attempting to coordinate internally in a new way, a sign that they had learned from the previous displays. It was small progress but meaningful. He realized that his teaching approach, patient, thoughtful, and strategic, was working. The aliens were evolving, learning to recognize humans' depth and intelligence without any conflict. Jack continued to engage Luma in these lessons. He showed her how to interpret sequences, recognize patterns, and predict outcomes. The small alien absorbed every detail, her glowing form flickering with excitement as she learned. Jack realized that Luma had become not just a student but a partner, someone who could help guide the alien species toward a deeper understanding of humans. Over the next several weeks, Jack expanded his demonstrations. He used natural features of Eden 5, streams, rocks, plants, to create increasingly complex sequences. Each pattern conveyed a principle: observation, problem-solving, cooperation, and empathy. The alien scouts studied diligently, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, but always learning. Jack observed every reaction, taking careful notes to adjust his next sequences. The adults in the vessel began to notice these repeated successes. They were cautious, yet intrigued. Jack understood that this was the turning point. The aliens were beginning to appreciate human intelligence, creativity, and emotional depth. They were realizing that humans were capable of extraordinary feats not through technology alone, but through ingenuity, empathy, and adaptability. During one particular demonstration, Jack coordinated a sequence that required multiple scouts to work together to solve a complex problem. Luma guided them subtly, showing them how to align the patterns and interpret the signals. The aliens succeeded, achieving a level of coordination that impressed even the adult vessel. Jack smiled quietly, satisfied that his approach was succeeding without any need for confrontation. He also continued to honor Rex in subtle ways. Each new sequence incorporated elements that represented loyalty, courage, and love, qualities that humans value deeply. The holographic image of his dog appeared occasionally within the patterns, a quiet tribute to the companion who had inspired Jack's mission. The children of the colony discovered these symbols and marveled at their beauty, unaware of the larger lesson being taught. By the end of the month, Jack had achieved remarkable results. The alien vessel had learned to approach humans with caution and curiosity, respecting boundaries while beginning to recognize the depth of human intelligence. Jack had demonstrated that humans could teach without aggression, influence without force, and inspire without intimidation. He knew the next phase would be critical. The alien leaders would likely attempt direct contact soon, and Jack wanted to be prepared. He began planning a careful encounter, one that would demonstrate humans' ingenuity, empathy, and problem-solving skills on a larger scale. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. Standing on the hill with Rex's holographic image beside him, Jack gazed at the stars. He felt a deep sense of purpose. His mission was no longer about vengeance or loss. It was about teaching, protecting, and demonstrating the true strength of humanity. Humans had survived countless challenges because they combined creativity, intelligence, and empathy. Now, Jack was showing this to an entirely new species. Luma approached, glowing softly in the twilight. She touched Jack's hand with her delicate limb, a gesture of trust and understanding. Jack smiled, realizing that this small alien child represented the bridge between species, the proof that humans could inspire cooperation and respect without violence. Jack whispered, "We're making progress, Rex. They're learning. They'll understand, and maybe someday the universe will know why humans should never be underestimated." The first stage of teaching was complete. The aliens had learned to respect human space, to observe and analyze, and to begin understanding the depth of human thought. Jack knew the next stage would be more challenging, but he was ready. He had patience, intelligence, and the memory of loyalty that Rex had given him. With these tools, he could face any challenge without raising a hand in violence. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown species and unexpected challenges. Yet Jack Harper stood confident that humans, underestimated though they might be, could demonstrate their true strength through creativity, empathy, and intelligence. He had taught the first lesson, and the next would be even greater. Jack returned to the colony that night, watching the lights twinkle in the distance. The children slept soundly, the adults continued their work, and Eden 5 remained peaceful. All the while, the alien vessel hovered silently, observing, learning, and adapting. Jack knew that the seeds of understanding had been planted, and that humanity's unique qualities would soon be recognized even among the stars. And somewhere in the quiet of his mind, Rex's loyal eyes seemed to shine, reminding Jack that courage, intelligence, and love were the greatest tools any human could possess. Jack Harper knew the moment had arrived. After weeks of careful observation, patient teaching, and subtle demonstrations, the alien vessel was ready for a more direct encounter. The leaders of the alien species, having noticed repeated changes in their scouts' behavior, would soon descend closer to the colony. Jack's task was clear. He needed to demonstrate the ingenuity, creativity, and problem-solving skills that made humans extraordinary, all without aggression. He spent the early morning in the garden, reviewing the plans he had developed over countless nights. Holographic projections of patterns, light sequences, and environmental puzzles were displayed around him, glowing softly in the dawn light. Each element was carefully designed to illustrate a principle of human intelligence: observation, reasoning, adaptability, and empathy. These were the qualities that Rex had inspired in him, qualities that could be shown without weapons or force. Luma floated nearby, her glowing body flickering with curiosity and excitement. The small alien had become Jack's partner in this mission, helping him adjust the displays and teaching the scouts how to interpret some of the simpler sequences. "Ready?" Jack asked softly. Luma blinked in response, a sign of affirmation. Together, they would face the next challenge. As the alien leaders approached, Jack positioned himself on a gentle rise overlooking the colony. He could see the vessel descending slowly, its lights reflecting off Eden, twin suns. The alien leaders were larger and more imposing than the scouts, but Jack's years of super soldier training had taught him to remain calm in the face of intimidation. Physical size and technology were meaningless against intelligence, strategy, and understanding. Jack began the demonstration. Using a combination of energy fields, holographic projections, and environmental sequences, he created a layered puzzle that spanned the hill and garden. Rocks, streams, and plants were arranged to convey patterns that required reasoning, timing, and cooperation to solve. The holographic image of Rex appeared intermittently, glowing softly, a reminder of loyalty and courage. The alien leaders hesitated at first, observing carefully. Their sensors flickered as they scanned the patterns, but unlike the scouts, they attempted to analyze without interfering. Jack smiled. Patience was key. He wanted the aliens to understand, not to be forced. One of the leaders stepped forward, tilting its head and examining a sequence of glowing rocks. Jack projected additional symbols, creating a series of tasks that required collaboration between the leaders and the scouts below. Luma guided the scouts subtly, pointing out sequences and encouraging observation. Slowly, the aliens began to engage, carefully moving through the patterns and interacting with the environment. Jack watched with quiet satisfaction. The demonstration was more than a display. It was a lesson. Humans were not powerful because of brute force or advanced technology alone. Humans were extraordinary because they combined intelligence with empathy, creativity, and moral understanding. Every step the aliens took, every sequence they solved, reinforced that lesson. As the hours passed, Jack introduced more complex challenges. He created environmental puzzles that mimicked real-life problem-solving scenarios, such as redirecting streams to provide water to virtual plants, aligning mirrors to focus sunlight on a target, and sequencing lights to communicate messages. The alien leaders attempted each challenge, their movements precise but tentative. They began to recognize patterns, adjust their strategies, and even anticipate outcomes, demonstrating a new understanding of human reasoning. Jack incorporated subtle storytelling into the sequences. Each puzzle conveyed a principle, a lesson from human experience. Loyalty, patience, and creativity were illustrated through the holographic image of Rex, the flowing streams, and the light sequences. The aliens, though not capable of feeling human emotions, were able to interpret the cause and effect relationships, recognizing that these sequences required thought, understanding, and moral consideration. At one point, a scout misaligned a pattern, causing a small cascade of glowing stones to topple. Jack observed silently, allowing the aliens to correct the error themselves. The leaders adjusted, showing patience and cooperation. This, Jack knew, was the ultimate lesson. Intelligence was not merely about knowing, but about adapting, observing, and collaborating. Throughout the demonstration, the colony's residents went about their daily lives, unaware of the extraordinary lesson being imparted above them. Children played in the gardens, families tended their crops, and the air was filled with quiet laughter and the hum of community life. Jack was pleased. This was not about fear or intimidation. It was about showing the universe what humans could achieve through thought, creativity, and heart. Luma floated beside Jack as he guided the alien leaders through the final sequence. It was the most intricate pattern yet, requiring alignment of multiple streams, energy fields, and reflective surfaces. The task demanded cooperation across the vessel, between scouts and leaders, and careful observation of environmental cues. Slowly, deliberately, the aliens succeeded. Streams flowed perfectly, lights aligned, and the holographic image of Rex shone brilliantly at the center. Jack allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had learned more than he could have hoped. They had experienced human problem-solving firsthand, recognizing that intelligence was intertwined with morality, patience, and creativity. The mission's core lesson was clear. Humans were extraordinary not because of technology, but because of the mind and heart combined. After the demonstration, Jack addressed the aliens directly, using simple patterns of light and gestures that Luma helped interpret. He conveyed respect, friendship, and a desire for peaceful understanding. He emphasized the importance of observation, empathy, and learning from mistakes. The aliens responded with their own gestures, hesitant but clearly acknowledging the lesson. Jack then stepped down from the hill and walked toward the colony. He wanted the aliens to witness human life in motion, children playing, families working, and neighbors helping one another. The simplicity of these scenes, the complexity of the relationships, and the warmth of the community were all demonstrations of humanity's unique capabilities. The aliens observed carefully, their sensors capturing patterns of behavior, expressions, and interactions that no technology could fully replicate. The final part of Jack's demonstration was subtle but powerful. He guided the alien leaders to a small memorial he had created for Rex. Flowers, glowing stones, and a soft holographic image of the dog were arranged to reflect loyalty, courage, and love. Jack used gestures and sequences to explain that this was the reason humans fought to protect life, not for power, not for dominance, but for connection and care. The alien leaders paused, seemingly processing the information. They were incapable of feeling grief in the human sense, but they understood the logic behind the display. They recognized the dedication, planning, and moral reasoning that Jack had invested into every element of the memorial. It was a lesson in empathy and intelligence, and the aliens absorbed it fully. By the end of the day, the demonstration was complete. The aliens had engaged with every sequence, observed human behavior, and learned firsthand the extraordinary capabilities of humans. Jack had achieved what he set out to do, not through force, not through intimidation, but through strategy, creativity, and moral clarity. Luma floated beside Jack, her glow soft and steady. "They understand," Jack whispered. The small alien blinked, acknowledging the statement. Jack felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had honored Rex's memory, protected the colony, and shown the aliens the true strength of humanity. As the vessel prepared to depart, Jack watched silently. He knew the aliens would carry the lessons forward, altering their assumptions about humans in ways that would prevent future misunderstandings. His work was complete, but its impact would last far beyond Eden 5. That night, Jack returned home, tired but fulfilled. He projected Rex's holographic image in the garden, sitting quietly among the glowing flowers. The memory of his loyal companion inspired him still, reminding him that intelligence without heart was incomplete, and that true strength was measured not by weapons or power, but by creativity, empathy, and resilience. The colony remained peaceful, unaware of the extraordinary lesson that had unfolded above them. Jack smiled as he walked among the glowing gardens, satisfied that humans had demonstrated their unique edge. Across the galaxy, other species might now recognize that intelligence combined with morality, patience, and creativity was the defining feature of humanity. Jack Harper knew that the universe was full of challenges, but he also knew that humans were capable of facing them with ingenuity, understanding, and heart. The alien species had learned to respect humans, not through fear, but through appreciation of what made them extraordinary. As he looked up at the stars, Jack whispered softly, "We've shown them, Rex. We've shown them what it means to be human." The holographic image of his dog flickered in response, a silent companion in the quiet night, a reminder that loyalty, courage, and intelligence could change the galaxy without a single act of aggression. Jack knew that this was only the beginning. The lesson had been taught, but the universe would continue to challenge humans in new ways. Yet he felt confident. With intelligence, creativity, empathy, and resilience, humanity could face any obstacle and emerge stronger. The galaxy might be vast, but humans had proven that they could shine brightly, even in the darkest reaches of space. And somewhere in the quiet of the garden, Rex's holographic eyes seemed to gleam, a reminder that the smallest acts of loyalty and courage could have the greatest impact on the universe. Jack Harper had completed the fourth phase of his mission. The aliens had witnessed the extraordinary nature of humanity, understood the principles that guided human thought and action, and begun to respect the species they had once underestimated. The galaxy would remember, even if quietly, that humans were not to be underestimated, not through strength, not through technology, but through ingenuity, compassion, and the quiet power of intelligence guided by heart. The alien vessel had left Eden 5's immediate skies, but its presence lingered in the minds of Jack Harper and the colony. Weeks of careful teaching, observation, and subtle demonstrations had shifted the aliens' perception of humans. No longer did they see only unpredictability and curiosity. They saw intelligence, creativity, empathy, and the quiet strength that Jack had exemplified. Jack stood on the hill where he had first watched the vessel descend. Rex's holographic image flickered beside him, glowing softly among the flowers and stones that formed the memorial. The golden eyes seemed almost alive, and Jack felt a familiar warmth in his chest. He remembered the loyalty and joy of his dog, and how that inspiration had guided him through the challenges of the past weeks. Rex had taught him the value of patience, observation, and courage, and Jack had shared that lesson not just with the colony, but with an entire alien species. Luma floated nearby, her small form glowing softly as she scanned the environment. The alien child had learned quickly, absorbing human concepts, gestures, and problem-solving strategies. She had become a link between the humans of Eden 5 and her species, carrying the knowledge of empathy, cooperation, and intelligent strategy back to the alien vessel. Jack smiled at her and said quietly, "You did well, Luma. You helped them understand what it means to be human." Luma's eyes flickered, a gesture of acknowledgement. She seemed to understand the weight of what they had accomplished together. She had witnessed firsthand how humans approach challenges, not with fear or aggression, but with observation, creativity, and moral consideration. Jack realized that this was the most powerful lesson he could teach. Technology could impress, weapons could intimidate, but it was understanding, empathy, and intelligence that truly defined humanity. The colony, unaware of the full extent of Jack's mission, continued its daily routines. Children ran through the gardens, their laughter ringing through the air. Farmers tended the alien-adapted crops, checking for ripeness and health. Engineers worked on hovercrafts, their tools reflecting the twin suns. Life on Eden 5 moved forward, ordinary to the eye but extraordinary in its quiet harmony. Jack decided it was time to solidify the lessons he had imparted. He began a project to create a visual representation of human intelligence and empathy for the aliens. Using natural materials, light sequences, and holographic projections, he constructed a large pattern on a hill overlooking the colony. The sequences depicted concepts of loyalty, problem-solving, cooperation, and understanding, all inspired by Rex's memory. Streams of water reflected light, rocks formed intricate designs, and plants shifted subtly with the wind to enhance the display. When the alien vessel returned, the leaders and scouts approached cautiously, but Jack noticed a difference in their behavior. They moved deliberately, observing, analyzing, and even mimicking aspects of the patterns. It was clear that they now understood more than before. The sequence was not just a demonstration, it was a story, a representation of human values in motion, and the aliens were beginning to comprehend it. Jack guided them through the patterns, using gestures and visual cues. Luma assisted, pointing out subtleties that the aliens might otherwise miss. The sequences required attention, patience, and reasoning. One by one, the aliens adjusted their movements, aligning with the patterns, completing the tasks, and demonstrating an understanding of the principles Jack had intended to convey. The final sequence was the most significant. Jack had designed it to represent the core qualities that defined humanity: empathy, creativity, and intelligence guided by moral consideration. At the center of the display, the holographic image of Rex shone brightly, surrounded by the glowing patterns. Jack stepped back and allowed the aliens to interpret the message for themselves. Slowly, the alien leaders and scouts moved together, completing the sequence with precision and coordination. Jack observed quietly, satisfied. This was not about dominance or proving superiority. It was about demonstrating the power of thought, heart, and observation. The aliens had learned to respect humans because they had experienced their ingenuity firsthand. After the demonstration, Jack communicated directly with the alien leaders using a combination of gestures, light sequences, and simple symbols. He conveyed messages of peace, cooperation, and mutual respect. The aliens responded with their own symbols, hesitant but deliberate. It was clear that they now recognized humans as intelligent, creative, and morally aware beings. Jack then turned his attention to the colony itself. He wanted the aliens to see not just demonstrations of intelligence, but the way humans lived, worked, and cared for one another. He guided the alien leaders through the streets, past the gardens, and into the community spaces. They observed children helping each other, families working together, and neighbors assisting one another without thought of reward. The aliens' sensors captured these interactions, and though they could not experience human emotion fully, they recognized the logic and reasoning behind cooperation, empathy, and care. Jack explained the significance of these actions, showing that human strength was not measured by weapons or technology, but by the ability to work together, to understand others, and to solve problems with creativity and foresight. Luma hovered beside Jack, her glowing body flickering with quiet excitement. She had helped guide the aliens to understand concepts that her species had never considered in such depth. Together, they had created a bridge of understanding that transcended language, culture, and biology. Jack realized that this was the ultimate achievement, a demonstration that humans could influence and inspire without force, solely through intelligence, creativity, and moral clarity. The alien leaders lingered for some time, observing, learning, and recording. Jack gave them space, allowing them to process the lessons and the sequences at their own pace. He knew that understanding could not be rushed. Patience was essential. The aliens were learning not just about humans, but about the values that guided them. As the sun began to set, Jack stood on the hill once more, looking over the colony and the alien vessel. The glowing patterns and holographic sequences reflected the fading light, casting soft colors across the landscape. Rex's holographic image flickered softly, a reminder of loyalty, courage, and love. Jack felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had honored his companion, protected the colony, and demonstrated the extraordinary qualities of humanity to an entire species. The alien leaders finally approached Jack directly. Using gestures and symbols, they conveyed acknowledgement and respect. It was clear that they had learned a valuable lesson. Humans were not to be underestimated, not because of strength, but because of intelligence, creativity, empathy, and the ability to adapt. Jack nodded, understanding that the mission was complete. He returned to the colony, walking through the streets and gardens. The residents continued their routines, unaware of the lessons imparted to the alien species. Jack smiled quietly, satisfied that the universe now had a new perspective on humanity. The aliens would share their observations, and other species might eventually recognize the extraordinary qualities humans possessed. That night, Jack projected Rex's holographic image in the garden once more. The golden eyes seemed almost alive, reflecting the soft glow of the twin moons. Jack knelt beside the projection, speaking softly. "We've done it, Rex. They understand now. They know what it means to be human." Luma floated beside him, her glow flickering gently. Jack reached out and touched her delicate form. "You've helped make this possible," he said. "We've shown them intelligence, creativity, and heart. That's what makes humans extraordinary." The small alien blinked in acknowledgement. Jack realized that she had learned not just from him, but from observing the colony, the children, and the patterns of life on Eden 5. She had become a messenger of understanding, carrying the lessons of humanity back to her species. Jack spent the next few days ensuring that the colony remained peaceful and safe. He adjusted monitoring systems, fine-tuned energy fields, and continued to observe the alien vessel from a distance. He knew that the lessons would endure, and that the aliens would carry them forward, influencing their own species' behavior in the future. He also created a lasting tribute to Rex, integrating the holographic projection with the natural environment of the colony. Flowers, streams, and stones formed a harmonious display, symbolizing loyalty, courage, and the quiet strength that humans possessed. The memorial served as both a personal tribute and a demonstration of the qualities that had guided humanity through countless challenges. One evening, as Jack watched the stars, he reflected on the journey. The aliens had arrived expecting confusion and conflict. Instead, they had encountered patience, creativity, intelligence, and empathy. They had learned that humans were not defined by weapons or technology, but by the mind and the heart working together. Jack felt a sense of quiet pride. Humanity had been tested, underestimated, and challenged, yet it had emerged stronger through understanding, strategy, and moral clarity. Rex's memory had guided him, reminding him that true strength came from loyalty, courage, and compassion. The alien vessel eventually departed Eden V's skies, leaving the colony in peace. Jack knew that the lessons he had imparted would echo through the species, creating a ripple of understanding across the galaxy. Humanity had been shown in its true light, and the universe had gained a new appreciation for the species that combined intelligence with empathy and creativity. Jack returned to his home, sitting quietly in the garden as the twin moons rose. The holographic image of Rex glowed softly, a faithful companion in memory. Jack smiled, feeling the presence of his dog guiding him still. The mission had been a success, not through conflict or power, but through patience, understanding, and the quiet demonstration of human ingenuity. The colony remained peaceful, life continuing in its ordinary, yet extraordinary rhythm. Jack knew that the galaxy would continue to present challenges, but he was confident that humans were ready. Intelligence, creativity, empathy, and resilience were qualities that no technology or misunderstanding could diminish. As he looked up at the stars, Jack whispered, "We've shown them, Rex. Humanity has its edge, its heart, and its mind. And they will never forget it." The holographic dog flickered one last time, a silent companion in the quiet night, a symbol of the loyalty, courage, and intelligence that defined humanity. Jack Harper had completed his mission. The aliens had learned respect, the colony remained safe, and the memory of Rex had guided the demonstration of humanity's greatest qualities. The galaxy had witnessed, and humanity had proven once again that it was extraordinary, not through weapons, not through fear, but through intelligence, creativity, empathy, and heart. And so, life on Eden 5 continued. Children played, families worked, and the stars shone brightly above. The lessons Jack had imparted would resonate across worlds, ensuring that humans would never be underestimated again. Jack looked down at Rex's holographic image and smiled. "We did it, boy," he whispered. "The universe knows who we are, and we'll keep showing them one lesson at a time." Humanity's journey would continue, guided by intelligence, creativity, and empathy. And somewhere in the quiet of the galaxy, the memory of a loyal dog had helped a super soldier teach an entire species the extraordinary nature of humans.